I've been able to purchase around $2.5 million of assets in the last 14 days. And this guy here, Nevada, my mortgage broker, helped me do that. So in this video, I want to break down for you exactly how I was able to grow my property portfolio from around $10 million to $12.5 million in a matter of weeks, working with the right brokers and buying the right types of assets. So I probably put you on the spot and gave you a bit of a shocker a few weeks ago when I decided to pull out equity, or to start the process of pulling out equity in one of my deals. Talk people who are watching through what that deal is and what the kind of numbers look like on me pulling out equity on that property.
Yeah, so in your case, we've reached a few instances where we've sort of sat there and gone, okay, probably for the minute we're at the cap. But
he's going to chill out for a minute. Is it going to happen where Luke's going to stop for a little while?
Yeah, it hasn't happened yet.
No.
But in your unique circumstance, is the situation changes very quickly because of the size of your property portfolio. You know, we evaluate see what equity is available in the portfolio. 3 months later, and especially in the current market, those figures of what's available is completely different.
Yeah.
Also, with your growing and expanding business, you know, we have income at X.
Yes.
And then 6 months later, that's a completely different figure again.
For sure.
So in a normal circumstance, for your sort of standard mum and dad investors, the same thing happens, but it just happens over a longer time horizon.
Yeah.
In your case, those changes are probably happening a bit faster, quarterly, because of that size of the property portfolio, all those things I mentioned earlier. So we have reached instances where we've gone, okay, yep, we can complete these purchases and we're good. And in this instance, we're just simply at that next stage where there's probably that capacity that's become available, few changes, bit more equity there, some equity accessible that we haven't accessed or touched before. And that's what's made, you know, open up the options to expand the portfolio a little bit further.
Yeah, absolutely. And I say this to people, like, you see guys out there like Jack Henderson with a $50 million portfolio, Sam Gordon, something like 80 million or 100, whatever he quotes. And people go, is that even like, that's ridiculous. And it is ridiculous. The only way these guys are doing that level is business income.
Yeah.
You know, they're making millions and millions of dollars of profit. They're doing hundreds of clients a year. And that's how they've been able to go from that 10 mil plus range. For your everyday mums and dads, achieving 2 to 4 property purchases is possible.
Yeah.
You just need to weather the storms and take that mid to long-term perspective, like you were talking about. Move with your broker to refinance. And now, at my case, they're in that 10 to 12.5 mil. I'm getting the momentum that some of these bigger guys, you know, that I've seen have had in their portfolios. And so I had to say to myself, before I called Nevada and asked for an equity refinance, I had to say to myself, do I want to sit on the sidelines? I have all this knowledge and I have all this insight into the property market, being a buyer's agent that specializes in Greater Melbourne and Greater Brisbane. And so do I want to just sit and be content? You know, that's that consolidation or that waiting phase. And the answer for me at 31 years old was really no. Unfortunately, I lost my wife to cancer about a year ago. And so there was a period where we did say to each other, hey, you're probably going to chill out. And I said to you, oh, maybe it's a year. Yeah. That ended up being 5 months. So I bought 2 properties in April, both, and they're well documented on the YouTube channel, for $625,000 and $638,000. Now, the bank valuations that Nevada got me a few months ago was about $700K. The reality is, when we refinance those again in 3-6 months' time, they'll have bank valuations easily at $800,000 to $820,000 because there's lots more comparable sales at that price point. And that kind of equity growth has been crazy. If you're following the market, that's where it's at. But because it's not just one asset for me that's gone up by that 150, 200,000, it's the whole portfolio's had big growth. Now I'm able to get that momentum and go again. And so talk people through that asset I hadn't touched, which is the Coffs Harbour unit block, and why that asset is a bit more difficult to deal with and how we actually are looking at accessing the equity.
Yeah, so lenders have different risk profiles depending on the security type of the asset itself. Now, this is a well-performing asset in the way that the rent it receives sort of stuff, but this particular property has 4 units, 1 title, or is it 5?
5. So it's
5 and 1. That's right.
So I bought Coffs Harbour with M in December 2021, and it was the same thing. Balls to the wall, Luke. I was 27 years old. CBA had given me $700,000 cash at the time out of the equity refinances, and I went to Pepper Money at the time, and they gave me $2 million borrowing power. We bought the unit block for $1.4 million in December 2021. And as you said, it's a 1 title, but 5 dwellings. The front property has an upper, lower, and then 3 separate units along the side. And so it is a far more complex type of security, especially being on 1 title and being personally owned. There's a lot of complications there.
So I have an analogy, which is what I use with clients, is this hallway analogy where if I have 100 lenders in the hallway of lenders that are available to me, this security type right away will rule out maybe 60, 70% of the lenders. They'll shut their door and become unavailable. So right away, we're restricted with the lenders available to maybe 30%.
Yeah. And
then we're we have to check all the other criteria match up with the 30% remaining. So it makes it more difficult to lend against.
Yeah.
It means that LVRs can be restricted to lower LVRs, like maybe 70% instead of your standard 80%. And it can also impact rates. With this particular asset, some lenders will deem it resi still, some will put it in the commercial bucket, which can change rates and lending criteria again as well. So in this instance, we found a good fit for it with a second tier lender. And that's pretty much why we had left that property for the time being. It's just because we weren't in a position where we wanted to touch that. We were sort of working with the more low hanging fruit initially.
Absolutely.
But there is obviously a fair bit of equity in this property, which is helping.
Yeah, and I'm happy to disclose the numbers. So the bank val on it is going to be around that 2.1. I think it's probably worth a bit more in the market, but again, bank valuations are conservative. The rent would be $2,000 a week, something maybe it's north of there now. It's closer to 2,200. And so it's really strong income, good value. When you look at that on a yield basis, that makes sense from the valuation point of view. The debt on it was round numbers $1 million. And so that means you're going to get somewhere between 500 to 700, depending on LVRs and all the valuations and all the noise that comes with that. And so it was with a big yellow bank, which you might know, with a big stock price. It was with
big profit.
Yeah, that's right. Biggest profits going around. It was with CBA as an asset. And so it was hard to beat their rate for a long time because I'd banked with CBA my whole journey up until working with brokers. But if we can get the right fit in that second tier space, that's where I was happy to say to you, yep, I'm less worried about the interest rate, more worried about accessing this equity. Yep. And that's exactly how, say I get $500,000 to $600,000 of cash out of this asset. That's a huge amount of chunks of deposits on multiple properties, which is exactly what I've gone and done, right? And then what happened next from your point of view?
I got a few sketchy phone calls from Luke. No.
That's right, yeah.
I am much more risk adverse than Luke. As you all know, Luke's pretty comfortable in the property space. Luke sent over 3 unconditional contracts. We'd obviously worked the figures and got the okay and did some
I did call Nevada. I know everyone caveats this. Don't go out and make their unconditional offers unless you're really in with your broker. We obviously check with each other before I'm going out and making very aggressive offers.
Yeah, and I will never recommend people make unconditional offers on property.
Me too.
In saying that, I understand from being able to acquire the properties at a certain purchase price. These are all leverage which you're utilizing to acquire suitable assets at the right price. So I understand all that. It's about working together, me to get those terms as low as possible, but keep clients safe. And you to acquire suitable properties at the best price. So it's sort of working hand in hand in that way. Whilst I'm confident, with these transactions, it's always a little bit of a nerve-wracking one with unconditional contracts. But yeah, progressing well. 3 acquisitions. Obviously, you've leveraged the equity off the back of those. The good thing with these acquisitions, they're all spaced out.
Yes.
So timing is a big part when working with your broker. That's a good question to ask. Is always make sure you get the timing component right because that makes a big difference. And that's a big comforter for us. If we have sufficient time to know that, like I already know we're on plan A, which is looking good. I already have plan B in mind.
Absolutely. You want your broker to be confident that if plan A falls over, plan B and C are there.
We've literally got to the point where we've workshopped it. I don't expect we'll need to use it. But my job's to make sure you settle on the properties.
Absolutely. Because I lose deposits, right? So when you go unconditional on a contract, the risk is, I'll talk you through the deals at a high level because I'm going to go through them on YouTube very soon. I don't want to give everything away until the dust is settled. But at a high level, I bought one property in Ipswich City Council on a big block, 1,000 square meters plus. The house is solid. It needs a bit of TLC. Nothing. It would easily rent right now, which is great for those rental appraisals. I'm going to build a 4-bed, 2-bath dwelling out the back. So that's going to be a secondary dwelling on that one. So that's that upside. And that was purchased for $800K. So that's deal number 1 with about a 35-day settlement. Deal number 2 is bought in the Geelong region in Victoria. So it's in that regional town in the heart of Geelong. Now, this is crazy. This one blows my mind. Was purchased for $480,000. So it's livable. It's pretty rough. It's livable. We're going to spend some money on it, though. So the idea is to spend $50K on it to really bring it up to life, give it a render, a full internal repaint, strip out the ugly grey. They've got those like really old style carpets. And the houses in these areas are selling for $600,000 to $650,000 when they're beautiful and fully done. The third, and the interesting thing is, as Nevada was saying, the spacing. So that's the first one's 35 days at 800K. The next one's 480 at 60 days, which will settle in the near future. And then the third one, we were able, by almost fortuitous luck in this case, I was expecting this third one to be 60 days as well. The third one was purchased in North Melbourne for $890,000, so the most expensive of the three. But this one's the longest settlement. So it gives us time to get the first deal across the line in Ipswich, the second deal in Geelong at the lower purchase price, which will be a lot easier because it is a low dollar figure relatively. And then the third one in North Melbourne, we've got time to make sure everything is settled there. And so that's one thing, is about working with your broker. You give me such confidence as a buyer's agent when you work with our clients. The Cube team really know what they're doing. They've got the full capacity with 10, 11, 12 brokers on their books. And that means myself individually and clients as well. When you're buying assets, you need that confidence in the financing. And so that third purchase being in 90 days, actually the auctioneer said, at the start of the auction, yeah, we would take 90 days. This is a deceased estate, we'll allow it. And so when I won that bidding, I instantly said to them, yeah, give me the 90 days. I don't want 60. And so that meant that these purchases lined up very well, 30, 60, 90. And it enables us to be proactive on each of those deals.
Yeah, and the chance is, particularly with the 60 and 90, that you won't need all that time, but it's certainly not going to hurt. It
and
means
it's right?
We have that contingency. If we need to pivot, we have that time to do that and just make it a little bit more stress-free.
And the 60 was very important. That one in the middle. So the 90 was, it was going to be 60 and we were able to push to 90. The other thing I say to clients is, if you can get these longer settlements and it's not costing me any money, if there's any growth in this North Melbourne asset, that 900K could easily be 950 by that point. And so I've made 50 grand without having to pay $1 to the bank. Now, that's not why you should be buying the property. You shouldn't be buying it for the short term. But if I look at each of these three deals, they all have levers for me as an investor and a buyer's agent. And that's how I've been able to work with my broker. Once I go back and add value to these deals, we can then go refinance. They got higher rental incomes. My business is growing. And so that's that snowball effect that you see these bigger portfolios, and guys like myself, now I'm hitting that point. And so for me, it's to grow to 20 million. I said when I first started this YouTube channel, it was 3.5 mil. I thought I'd reach 3.5 mil a property. That's a lot, right? 3.5 mil was 3 houses for us. And we were like, wow, this is a big deal. But I guess the journey continues. And so we've talked about our journey, my journey recently, and what was that like, and how can people, if they want to hear an hour of us yapping about, my history and my business ventures, where can people find that?
Yeah, that was great. We recently did a podcast. I'm following in your footsteps with the YouTube channel. So we have a podcast. It's called the Bigger Picture Podcast Australia.
Yeah.
We had an interview with Luke, about an hour long. It was great to run through everything because I've heard all the examples. I know the deals. I know the properties.
You and I have talked enough.
I see the numbers. I have a good insight there. But it was great to hear both the numbers in chronological order.
You probably haven't heard it broken down like that.
Yeah, and then also the little personal stories with each property, and your and Emily's the stories from each one.
The little headaches retaining walls and painting it. Oh, I think I told you one about hammering nails on the floor at night, 9 p.m. at night.
That's right. It was that was a really cool insight, stuff I haven't heard before. And then get a good understanding of, I guess, what's next, the why behind it all.
Yeah.
Talk about those important things, like obviously purpose property being the name.
Yeah, absolutely.
It all comes down back to, what's the purpose behind what you're doing, why invest, why give yourself, more choices, as
absolutely.
You say. So it's great to hear those insights from you as well. I thoroughly enjoyed it. The video is performing pretty well, which is pretty cool.
You're too kind. It's your podcast, mate. You're the one killing it over there. It was good for me too. I enjoy making content on YouTube and giving, hopefully if you're watching this video, useful information to inspire you. I don't say that I've done 2.5 mil of purchases in 10, 14 days to showboat, to say, oh, I'm so much better than you. I've got a successful business. I've got a booming portfolio. It was never about that for Emily and I. And unfortunately, losing her to cancer, it's taught me more of that. And so with me growing, it's about purpose. It's like you said, the business is called Purpose Property, and it's about the journey and taking people along for the ride. You're building your business, I'm building my business. The synergies there, our staff come along for the ride. Every single client that you and I work with, it's not about a revenue line item. It's about taking them through that broking process, or taking them through, on my end, the buying process, and how we set people up for success. Genuinely, educating them, and then from my point of view as a buyer's agent, acquiring the right assets for your mid to long-term goals.
It's pretty cool being in an industry or a business where you can genuinely feel like you're helping people with each and every transaction you do, whether it be the fifth investment property for someone or the first home, or someone that's gone through a bit of a rough patch and just tidying up some consolidating some debt. So it's cool to be able to help people out of those unique life situations. But a big part of it, I think, comes down to the education understanding.
Yeah.
And one thing I love dealing about your clients, and I think this is largely from your YouTube channel, is they come and sit down with me and man, do they know their stuff. Like they know the lending, like most of the lending criteria.
Yeah.
They know what banks are looking for. They're giving me all the, this is the good points, this is the bad points.
What would Luke do?
and it makes... in a lot of ways, honestly, it challenges me because it makes me want to be on top of my toes and make sure I'm up to date with the latest and greatest so I can still provide value to these people.
Absolutely.
That could probably honestly be brokers.
Yeah.
A lot of them. And it also, it's great. It's really enjoyable working with people, that sort of know their stuff coming in. It allows us to sort of focus on big picture rather than, explaining how an offset facility works.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think... engaging with a buyer's agent, engaging with a mortgage broker, all those things are well and good. But if you know a bit yourself beforehand, it just makes those interactions more valuable.
Yeah, and people need to take control of their journey. The government's not here to help you create financial abundance and financial wealth. You need to build that team around you that are going to get you where you want to go. And that's why it's really important to understand your why, because there are some hard days and there is some risk involved. Doing 2.5 million purchases, there is stress involved. But obviously at my level, I've done it so many times that the more and more experience you get, the less risky these things seem and the more backstops that you have. And so I guess my faith is a big part as to why I'm doing this. For Emily and I'm as a Christian, and Nevada and I talked about that on the bigger picture. I was going to say the bigger podcast, the bigger picture podcast. The bigger picture it was great to explore the business and the property. And then at the end of it, the last 15 minutes, we talk about Emily losing her to cancer, my personal faith, and why I'm still investing at this point. Because if I'm able to control 12, 15, $20 million worth of assets and have control of my day-to-day time, it's then about helping others. It's then about journeying with people, not just worrying about my own little silo. It's about caring for others and how they can go where they want to go. And that doesn't need to be high level, high risk. You could be a teacher, a fireman, a police officer. We work with loads of clients, a FIFO, who want to get to a choice and freedom. And so you can have that a lot sooner if you're living well below your means. And so, if you want to explore that podcast and see us chatting for an hour, click this right in the middle here. We'll put it right here and you can go over to that podcast and see more about my property journey and how I was able to go from 0 to 10 million. And now we're talking about 10 to 12 and a half. And the goal for me at the moment seems to be 20 mil. So
I don't believe you. We'll see when we get there.
Yeah, that's right. The journey continues. We'll see you in the next one.
Thanks, guys.
Peace.